Good morning, everyone. How are you doing out there? And we're excited to be here again. I'm Marcia O'Connor, obviously with the O'Connor Group, and excited to be here with you guys today. And I think this is live, so here we go. Anyways, I have a lot of questions today for you guys, and so thanks so much for putting the time in to do that. Number one question today is from Lisa Nikowski. So, question was asked: when did you first start your business? And you had the idea. What steps did you take to start the company? Um, this is a great question, Lisa. I think we all start this off in our worlds as to the crazy entrepreneurs that we are. It started out basically when I was little and always had a side business, and I started mowing lawns. I was 12 years old. I started having actually a snow removal business as well, and I realized that when I started working for individuals that honestly, I wouldn't say I'm a rule follower. I like trying to make things better, faster, quicker. And so I realized that I wasn't a very good soldier. And I always asked why, and I was so curious. And I would always basically get in trouble because I didn't fit into the lines. And so I started putting together a business plan, and I have a business background. And I started actually figuring out what I needed to do. And I started talking to a lot of people who had their businesses to find out what worked well, what didn't work well, and why. And so I would just start doing all that and reading books. And then to be honest with you, I had worked for a place that I would say the current person I reported to, she and I weren't seeing eye to eye, and went on vacation, read the book, The Alchemist. Highly recommend that book. And I came back and I quit and I started my business with a small business plan I had. The business plan wasn't perfect at all. It was more of a guideline for me. I think people wait too long because of the fact that they want that business plan to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. You just have to have an idea of how you are bringing in money and what your product is. Um, and that was 13 years ago, September 1st, 2007. And, now I have 37 people and I have an office in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And I haven't looked back, well, maybe a few times. But right now, I think it's been great. Definitely a trying year this year, but it's all good. So we'll get that moving. All right. Hope that answers your question. But if you believe in yourself, you got this. And just surround yourself with people that believe you too. I find it ironic when I had first started, I would always hear this from people, especially the first 2 years. Oh, that's really nice. How long are you going to be doing that before you get a real job? And I looked at them saying, like, you need to get out of my way. I called them trees, and trees were in my way. I would go around the trees because I need to be around people that were positive, uplifting, and keeping me moving because this was such an important thing that I wanted to do for myself. So never give up. Surround yourself with great people. You got this. And just make sure you have a lot of mentors to help you too. Don't be afraid to ask. Okay, I hope that helped you, Lisa. Number two is from Christopher Joseph. Question that they asked: what resources would you recommend to me to learn how to be better at sales? Um, well, I think that's sometimes a loaded question. When I first started out, I had no sales experience whatsoever. All I know is that I was good talking to people, and someone had told me you automatically have a trust factor. And I think that was really important. You have to figure out what you're trying to sell. And the biggest key to sales, to be honest with you, is listening. And listening is probably going to be almost the entire conversation that you have basically with a potential new client. And you know what? I basically ask them, I listen the entire time. But in regards to training and all too, you want to look, there are so many wonderful videos that are free on YouTube about basically what it takes to be a salesperson. And there's the Sandler effect. I had gone through the Sandler training program a while back, and my dear friend Chuck Poland in Philadelphia had me go through a course. And I was so thankful for that because I am an accountant by trade. So everything I do has to sort of be like logical. There's got to be a formula. There's got to be a reason. So I was looking for that in sales. I'm like, okay, what's the magic sauce? And then it wasn't so much that a piece of magic sauce. It came down to basically seeing people's faces, figuring out what they are looking for, and hearing what the true problem was. So if you like puzzles, if stuff like that, you're going to be great in sales because what you're trying to do is figure out where the pain is. And once they have that pain, you're figuring out basically what they need and how you can provide that service to them or that product. And sometimes it's not even that product you have right now, but you're hearing a certain pain that you know you can do. And then all of a sudden, like, well, I can do that for you as well. And this is how we're going to do these steps. So you have to do a little bit, actually a lot of bit of listening. And I think sometimes when people start off, they want to ask so many more questions up front. Hold off your questions, bring your pad of paper, write your questions while you're listening. Make sure that they are completely done talking to you. Be careful of your time and just make sure that you reiterate what you had heard from them. And then you basically start pulling in. And once you start hearing those verbs, well, we tried this and we tried to do this and that wasn't successful. You got to pull those words back out of them and say, well, let's go back to why that wasn't successful. What was missing? And I think sometimes in sales, people forget that use that word, what is missing. And believe it or not, you will be surprised of how much you'll learn from that. And when I had started sales, I think I had asked to do sales and I was doing really well in what I was doing. And I don't think people thought that I could do it. And honestly, I would get all red in my face talking to new people and all too. It just took a lot of experience, a lot of basically getting involved in like nonprofit organizations, taking on those leadership roles and all too. That too is also going to help you in sales, and that's like a sort of free experience for you. But I did a ton of that and a lot of live speaking, and that helped me greatly. So I can have a conversation with anybody now without worrying, my cheeks getting red or my embarrassed and all too. I took control of that conversation. So there's a lot of different ways out there too, but I would say go on YouTube, go to Sandler, and all to get in front of a mirror, tape yourself basically when you have these conversations, and really start just listening. And to be honest with you, it's not as easy as it sounds. You have to really be good at listening, but listening to the verbs and writing down little pieces and all too, and then going back to it. Just like they do basically like a reporter asks you a lot of questions, they're going to go back to those pieces. That's the way you want to start thinking in the sales side too, okay? I hope that helped. And next question is Francesca Nicasio. I hope I said that properly. Her question was, how do you deal with possibility of your employees, contractors stealing your customers? I've been there. So, you want to do it the right way and you want everybody to be friendly and everything else. It gets really difficult. What you want to do is have into your agreements something in there about a non-solicitation. And you might want to work with either an employment attorney, or there's also things online that you can use too, like legalese and all. But make sure it's non-solicitation's in there. And that means even working on that project. So for example, I had a former HR consultant who was wonderful, did a great job and all too. And then she comes to me and she said, I want to go on my own. I said, oh, that's great. And unbeknownst to me, I find out within 6 months that one of her clients is one of my former clients. And bad shame on me. I was only in the practice for 3 years. I didn't have that in the contract. Anybody believe after that I had it in the contract? Very small little statement. I would say you don't want to do it more than a year because it's really hard to prove and come back to them on that. But you want to make sure that you have a very clear understanding when they come on board too. But you can do the best you can to protect yourself. People are have to live with themselves, and you have to be honest and upfront. Some people still aren't going to be that way. And if that happens, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do with that. Because do you want to go to the, sue them, and that gets sticky and expensive and all too. But you want to make sure that that agreement is very clearly stated in the very beginning. So make sure they understand why they are signing off on that non-solicitation agreement, okay? If you need any help with that, just let me know too, okay? I hope that helps you. But it does happen out there whether we like it or not. Michael Pliley is our next question. How do you know who to hire next, service manager or salesperson? Well, you know what? I always do it if where am I losing my most revenue, and how is it going to help out with basically getting to my final goal? And so even though I might need this person to help out, but for right now, if I want to hit a sales goal, does this person bring in sales or does this person bring in sales? And does this person have more of an effect? Is it hurting production? Is it hurting something else to basically get moving? And even though you might need that additional finance person, which is great, you also want to figure out like, hey, this person, they're my production person here. I'm losing money every day this person's out and not hired. So you want to do an analysis of the pros and cons behind all that, and figure out, and also keep in mind, don't be afraid to outsource technical knowledge too, and see which one that you could use basically on an interim basis as well. Because some positions you can do that, like my marketing, I had outsourced that. I outsourced my accounting side of the house. I was doing so many other areas on that too until I had enough resources to bring them in house. But we obviously were a billable association, so what we did basically is we have, my recruiters, and we have basically my HR consultants, and they're on the billable side of the house. So I'm always making sure that, okay, can I bring them on first? Because I need so many people there in order to bring on administration or operations. So you want to make sure that you have a good, I would say, balance of that too, in regards to your billables, in regards to basically like admin expense. And always make sure you have more billables there too. But you want to make sure which one's losing money first. So write it down, put a pros and cons in there and all too, and figure that out, because it should be pretty clearly when you start doing that. So I hope that answered your question too. And I know you also too, Michael, you had mentioned too, could it be possible to find a person that could do both positions until they fill the service position? Absolutely. But be really clear, make sure that expectation is set up front and all too, and have a timeline in there too, so they know that there's somebody else is going to be hired for that role. You can absolutely do that, but stick to your guns, because if that person is really expecting that to happen, you're going to really hurt yourself, because what happens is they start losing faith in you because you didn't keep your word. So you absolutely can do that. Just be very clear expectations. We're in HR, we write things down, we put it into documentation, we have them sign off on it too, so that we're all on the same page with that. Eric Blandino asked the question, I love the idea of doing something fun with our team for 2 hours during work time once a month in the form of leadership games, escape rooms, etc. Is this something to be done monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly? I gotta be honest with you, Eric, it really comes down to the culture of your organization. So my culture, we do town halls every quarter. We do a group Zoom update call every single month. We have a newsletter that goes out. It's a really fun newsletter every 2 weeks. And we do like an employee appreciation thing every single month. It's a little bit different because we're remote, but we try to keep as much fun as possible. We did start a leadership book club that we've offered to everybody, and we'll pay for the book. But they have to read that chapter, and they basically meet during lunchtime once a month, actually twice a month, to go over all that. So I would say it really depends upon your budget and whether you need it. As culture, is that fun part of your culture and all too? Like when we did a survey of my whole team, and the number one word that came out of us was fun. So my job is to keep it fun and maintain it. So my marketing team has a lot of things lined up on all too for them for that. But it really comes down to what you want and what you can afford, because so many things are really expensive, but they don't need to be. You can actually make it really fun of like, the best photography picture and see what kind of pictures they pulled in, or, fanciest looking dog. We have a town hall next week, and it's a Halloween themed course. But it's really simple, but we're also now doing a fun little happy hour theme with our kids, because the kids want to get in it. They want to get dressed up. A lot of them aren't trick-or-treating this year, so they still want to wear their outfits. So they're going to be seeing all these other kids on the Zoom, and then we're going to make really cool hot cider together and all too. So we're trying to make it really fun and different. I have an amazing marketing team. So they really try to make sure like we have all these really cool, fun things. We also have a walk challenge going on right now. We had so many people get puppies this year that we actually have 3 teams that we basically have about 6 to 7 people in each team. And we have to basically tally in how many miles we walked this week. And we're trying to walk with our animals, right? And so it's been really cool to see how many, we've been walking a lot because the numbers are really rolling up. But it also tells me that people are taking care of themselves and wellness, and that I do care that people do get out and breathe and see the sunlight and all too. But it's making it fun, a little competitive, but I think it's fun. And guess what? It doesn't cost much. And what we're going to do is there's actually something, don't tell my team this. We're going to basically have, it's a thing that they have a dinner that's basically we'll pay for, and a chef shows them how to do all this stuff and all too. It's really cool. And so the winning team is actually going to have that as an option. And so things to think about, guys. There's so many creative ways you could do this right now. Don't think of the old-fashioned way, or I don't have the budget. You got to put it in a plan, put it into a marketing plan, and be consistent with it and all too. Because got to tell you, once they start expecting it, they keep expecting it. So you want to make sure if you do too many, they're always going to expect that too. So be careful about that. You want to have somebody who's really on top of that for you too. Okay. But if you need any ideas or tips, just reach out to me. And next question, Lisa Filter. Lisa asked, best web chat for small businesses that doesn't need an agent to answer. Just a place to filter website questions and to have a response, if unavailable, to leave a message for website, Instagram, and Facebook to funnel through. So she basically has a bridal store. And she said most of her questions are about our price, what types of products we have, or to schedule an appointment. And she's asking basically, what's the best web chat out there for small businesses? But you know what? I don't know. I don't use that for my team. We actually have somebody who always answers live those kind of questions and all too. Do you by chance even have like an FAQ basically on your website? I'm sure there's actually stuff out there, and I'm sure this amazing team out there can help her out with some answers here too. So let me know what you want to do with that. But I have to do my research on that because I don't even know myself. But I would say we have a live person that we have a phone number that goes to a person who answers basically 8 through 5 actually. And she answers all different kind of questions, and she's on the go everywhere. So you might want to consider basically putting that into play to have that one person do that and be like your go-to to answer those kind of questions. And it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money too. So something like that might be helpful. Or even having an FAQ on your website too, to say, hey, we realize these are questions that you ask. We want to help you out with that. Or you know what, better yet, do a quick video. Video is such a hot topic right now, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes the fact that you just get your phone and you do a quick video and you put it out there, you're being real, you're being honest. Just make sure your lighting is really good. And one of the best places to do a video, believe it or not, is your car. You have all this natural sunlight, and you also have basically the sound zone in there too. So it's basically heard really well on your phone. So just some ideas for you, okay? I hope that helps. I have to do my own research on that one, that's for sure. Okay, next question is from Joe Nugent. Okay, question they asked, how does your company compensate salespeople? So my company's a little bit different because we're all W-2 employees. We are not a commission-based and all too. So we actually have a quarterly bonus schedule, and how we base it on is basically how the company does, the sales that they bring in, and they have certain criteria that they are basically accounted for. And if they hit all those different areas, they get a percentage of that, and then they get a quarterly check. Now, very different. We do not have a commission thing here. And we try not to do it that way because there's like 5 people involved with our sales process. And so it's not really fair. That person might have brought the client in, but the next person did the reporting, the next person followed up, next person closed it, next person's working on it and all too. So we try to make it around those areas and all too, so we give them a better base. And we show them basically how they're accountable if they want to get that bonus and all too to hit it. So it really depends what you want. A lot of my friends who are CEOs in the Philly marketplace, I've been told that they have done a lower base, and then basically they just how much they brought in, and then they have it capped at different tiers. The one thing I think sometimes you got to be careful about when you say capped, people basically, really good salespeople don't like that because it's like, well, I've hit that, and then I've hit this, and I've hit this. So what's my inspiration of getting more? So be really careful about that. There are really some good sales programs out there too on YouTube of how to set that up as well. But you want to make sure that they are bringing in what you need. And keep a rule of thumb, within 12 months, you want to make sure that they're bringing in at least their salary, if not twice their salary. And the whole idea is always a 2.5, meaning within 3 years, you want to make sure they're bringing at least that much money to cover their expenses and all too. Now, most of them actually have a higher profile than that too, meaning, a few $1 million and all too, but be careful because they want to get compensated for that too, but be very clear about expectations and what that looks like. Because if you're not, it gets very, very sticky. And then if you have a really good salesperson, they will leave if that is not clear. So be very careful about that. And to the next question. All right. And this is from Chris Sidat. Chris asks, which CRM system do you use and why? And what should I take into consideration when choosing? So, ironically enough, I think it comes down to what kind of company you are and what you want to get out of it. The CRM system that we use is HubSpot. And I love HubSpot, and I'm also an EO member. So we actually get a discount because we are an EO member, and it's quite significant too. So we actually use that for all of our marketing and for our CRM. And the nice thing about that, everything gets tracked. And so if I'm on the road, not as much anymore, but I can actually go on my phone and look under HubSpot, a name, a company, the contact, how we know them, who sourced them, blah, 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 blah. Everything. It's really good. We also started a newsletter that comes out bi-weekly, and that also comes out through HubSpot. And we can see who opened it, who's basically going to different pages, how long they've stayed at pages and all too. It's been really cool to see how much we put into it. But it was an investment. It wasn't cheap. Now, we did that starting as a beginning of 2 years ago, okay? I am in business for 13 years. What I used before that was very simple sales processes out there. There's a lot of apps out there that can do it too for you. So you want and I think it was Insightly that we were using, INSIGHTLY. And that's another one out there on the web you could use that was inexpensive. There's a lot of them that are inexpensive, and it could tie into your Outlook and all too, if you use Outlook. But you want to make sure it's fit for your company. But if you are on this growth trajectory, make sure, okay, it's a lot of work to take that data and move it into another database and all too. So if you are looking at that trajectory of the next 5 years of big growth, put the time and money into a really good system right now, and basically, just figure out what you really need for now, because that's really going to help you grow. And what we put it in there 2 years ago, significant growth from it in regards to members reading our newsletter, in regards to new business coming in. It has been just basically inspirational for us. So we're massively hooked on it, and we love all the new features coming out through it. But I would do a chart and go into all the ones that basically other people are using, and just start talking to other CEOs about what are you using, why are you using it, do you like using it, and all too. And then basically the cost. But don't be frugal here, because a really good CRM system is worth it, okay? Because it's going to bring in a lot more money for you. I hope that answered your question. But I could talk forever about CRMs, because I'm a big marketing buff, and I really think you should really spend time and money on that, but do it the right way the first time, because it's a lot of time to put it together, and then you don't want to redo that after 2 or 3 years. And in regards to Lindsay Grifta, she actually had 2 questions for us today. Her first question was, should I buy an email list for leads or continue to research and create on my own? I would say that depends. If you're the person doing it and you're trying to work on your business, and there's an easier way to do it out there to get the leads and all, I would say invest in basically the leads. There's a lot of great companies out there that do it, and utilize what they already put together. If that's going to save you time, you have to constantly look at right now, guys, is owning your businesses. There's a cost and there's a benefit. Okay. And trust me, there are many little things that I used to love doing, but I start looking at, how much am I being billed outside? And basically, is that worth it, me spending that time in here, because I could be making more doing this than I can do this. So constantly use your cost benefit. And I would highly recommend, if it's going to save you a lot of time and money for you, definitely use the list. Just make sure when you get that list, who's going to be going through that list to make the calls and do all the uptake. If that's you too, you got to be careful and be very specific about what you ask for. The idea is basically to save you time and to bring in revenue at the same time and all too. So constantly do a cost benefit analysis. And the bigger your companies become, guys, that's a really, really important tool, because you could spend all day long doing all these little pieces, and that's great, but focus on what you do best. And if you're doing best on sales and getting out there and kissing the babies and bringing all the business in, you got to focus on that, no matter how addicting it can be to do all these little pieces here. But you're going to have to let the fingers go and have somebody else help you do all that, who isn't going to cost as much as you. And so, again, that's that cost benefit. And it's really hard to do that when you start. It's hard to let go. I've lived it. I get it. It took me 3 years to give my financials over to my bookkeeper. And now I'm really glad I did all that. And so I actually go back and say, why did I wait so long? Because I had control issues, and I admit it. And I sometimes still have control issues in marketing, and they say stay away. But it's hard because I get to be like mini perfectionist and all too. But that's the DNA of an entrepreneur, right? So be careful about that. Listen to your team behind all that. If it makes your life easier, then do it. If it doesn't, then rethink it. Okay. That's number one question. Number two question, should I use we or I on my website? Okay, so we're starting to do some training around all this and, the he, she, it. I think it really makes a preference upon the individual. And so I have some of my team members that are putting on their she, she, her, it. I'm cool with that. We have to change with the times. I actually have another client of mine. They are a nonprofit, and they do a lot of like social events to gather up fundraising and all too. And ironically enough, um, so we're finding out that they're getting pushback because all of their registrations online only say he or she, and they're saying, hey, get with the times, man. It's a whole new world out there. Start acting like the 21st century. So we have to go in there and do some training to their people as to what to look for, what to do, why it's important to basically have something in there saying not categorized and don't want to disclose. It's the new way of work. It's a new diversity, and we have to basically embrace and change and all too, and to bring it into our workplaces. So I think it's a personalized decision, if you want to do it or not. But I do think it's an individual decision. I don't think it has to be the group. I think sometimes it's more individual because some people, like the politics today, some people are far right and then they're far left, and you have to respect that. So, but make sure that you do take an effect on your website, on your registrations and stuff like that too, how it's being perceived to the outside generation, because they will be very offended if that is not included in there too. So you want to make sure that that is all captured. I hope that answered your question too. And our last question today is from our dear Sean Thomas. So his question was, without a team to delegate to and without the budget to hire a full team, how did you get things done when you first started your company and it was just you? So I basically hired 1099 consultants to help me out a lot. And the idea behind it was I didn't have money for, the employer taxes. I didn't have money, in regards to all the extra pieces that go along with that. And it was the easiest way to do it. You just need to be careful that, you don't have a 1099 too long. And you also want to be careful. We do HR consulting. My people had to have their own insurance in order to be a 1099 because we deal with personal issues, compensation, health benefits, and all too, very confidential information. So you want to make sure that you have a 1099 in my world that had insurance, make sure that they were okay. You also want to make sure that they are paying their taxes too quarterly. If they do not, unfortunately, it is still going to be your responsibility to pay those taxes if they don't. They will come back to you because you actually had employed them, even though they were 1099. And in that agreement that you set up with your 1099, it says in there specifically that you will be responsible for paying those taxes. And there are times that they do not. So be very, very careful and make sure that they are doing that, because it's going to help you in regards to additional help in people, but it's not going to cost you as much until you have enough money saved up to basically bring on board an employee, okay? Because there's a lot more, you need unemployment compensation, workman's comp and all too, which is additional expenses that you hadn't had before. Now, when I first got started, it was 3 years before I hired my first full-time employee. And it got to the point where I was just working nonstop and it was killing me. And one of my 1099 employees, a really good friend of mine, she said, you are driving yourself crazy. You have to hire somebody. And she saw it. Sometimes we don't see it because we're so into the weeds and all too, and we don't, we're just, it's a fear, right? Is here now all of a sudden you're having somebody come aboard full time with you and you're taking care of them and you want to make sure they have a paycheck. So when we first started, we started paying people actually monthly. It wasn't even biweekly like we have now, but I had to do it monthly because we're consulting. Most of our clients paid 3 months afterwards. I also made sure I had reserves stashed up too, just to make sure that I was constantly paying her paycheck before even my paycheck. And it was very, very, very scary. The first time it's like closing your eyes and just walking off the plank on the ship and saying, okay, let's see how far I go down. But then you do it and you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't so far and it wasn't so bad. And I took care of everything and we're just fine. And I have them on payroll and guess what? It's great. I'm breathing again. So you have to be okay to let that go and be around people to help you with that too, because it's a very scary thing. But once you start doing it, and you start hiring really good people, and you realize like it just sort of takes care of itself. It's just getting off the plank. So I did that for 3 years, and I had a lot of 1099 consultants, and it was still scary. And you have to just be careful what you do. I had one client that or one consultant that unfortunately, after I put her out a client for after 5 years, and she was there for 5 years, she she found out she was guilty of embezzlement. Yeah, that was fun. And you know what? You just have to be like, holy crap. And then we started instituting background checks and drug screening and all too for all my people coming on board. And you just got to cover yourself, guys, because you want to trust people and everything else, but you got to keep in mind it's like the oxygen mask coming down the airplane. Take care of you first and make sure that you have everything lined up and your agreement set. And it's annoying to do all these little pieces and put it in place and keep it organized, but it'll save you so much pain and agony down the road. Okay. So I hope that helps a lot. And we are here to help out HR talent. That's our thing. And reach out to us. Basically, feel free anytime at all, even on Facebook or even on our website or just O'Connor at TOCGRP. We're here to help as much as you need. And enjoy the weekend. Get outside, get that vitamin D, and stay safe, guys. And peace out. Bye. Be helpful to know where to find the button. Okay, now we're good.